favorite question since 2024. Y'all know the chant. Let me hear it, man.
What's the
Injil?
What's the Injil?
What's the Injil?
What's the Injil?
What's the Injil? Now, a lot of times, what is the Torah? They never been asked it. They just assume these things. So it's upon us to make them think. Because they're not going to think of themselves. We literally have to hold these guys' hands. It's sad, but it has to happen. So when it comes to a point where you're asking, what is it? And you got this cycle. It's a book. It's a revelation. It's a book. It's a revelation. That's all they can tell you. You got to help them out a little bit. Just ask them some helping questions. Okay, was Jesus walking around with a book? Because what do they say? They say, was Jesus walking around with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Of course not. Well, see, he didn't have your gospel. Your gospel's not what Jesus had. Okay, so was Jesus walking around with a physical book? No, he was given a revelation. Okay, so it was just an oral revelation then. Jesus was just preaching. Yeah, he didn't have a physical book. Okay, cool. That's fine. So then Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, not being what Jesus was walking around with, doesn't eliminate our gospel from being the Injil. Looks like we believe the same thing so far. So that's step one, right? Jesus wasn't walking around with a physical book. We all believe it, Muslims and Christians. Here's the next step. Okay, cool. We got that down. Next step. Okay, was the Injil written? Mostly they'll say, I don't know. Was it though? I'll ask you guys. Was the Injil written?
Oh, Injil, yeah, it was.
Show me.
Gospels.
Oh, it says that Muhammad's in there. But do you guys know a verse that says that in the Quran? Because I don't know, man. Do I got 7157? Oh, man, I love this dude. I love this guy. You know what? You're going to be first. Okay? If you talk too much, I'm going to have to turn it all logic here. We're going to have a big baby in you. But okay, so yes, chapter 7, verse 157, it says that the Injil was written down. This is what it says actually verbatim. It says, those who follow the unlettered prophet, whom they find written with them in the Torah and the Injil. Ain't that something? So you have explicit verses in the Quran that says the Injil was written down. Now, write this down as well. You might not know how to spell it, but just write it how it sounds, okay? I don't care. The word is maktubin, okay? Maktubin, which means written. Because this is important because their translations like to play. Any Arabic speakers in here? Oh, yes. So, am I right? Maktub?
Maktub, yes.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, maktubin means written, right? Now, some of their translation might just say described, or you'll find this description. And so, you know how Muslims, they like to play. If it doesn't say the verbatim word for word, unequivocal statement, unambiguous verse. When the Quran says the Injil is written, I become Muslim today. You know, they like to play with that stuff. So we got to show them. It actually says the word written, maktubin in the Arabic, okay? So I want you guys to have that down. Whenever you're engaging with somebody, ask the right questions, okay? So, when we start with what's the Injil, the reasons why we come up with this, what would you guys say? What are some things you heard? I want this to be interactive. We're family here, right? We're friends? We cool? Okay, good. Let's talk to each other then. Okay. What are some things that, a Muslim would tell you about your Bible? What are some things that you Paul was at Nicaea. Did y'all know that? Paul was able, by the Holy Spirit, to transfer time and show up at the Council of Nicaea and change the books. Y'all didn't know that, did y'all? We don't know who wrote the Gospels. That is important. That one right there is important. So all of these reasons are how a Muslim will say that, they know that we don't have the Injil. What we have is corrupted. What we have, it's been changed. And it's anonymous. We don't know the authors. So that led me to ask this question. I said, okay, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is corrupted. Maybe Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John has been changed. Maybe Paul wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And maybe we don't even know the authors. Maybe he just threw names on there. We don't know who the authors actually are. So this led me to this question. Then who wrote the Injil? If my Gospels, it being anonymous, is good enough to reject it, then that means that you know who wrote the Injil, then, right? So we ask these same questions, these objections that they give us, we ask it right back to them. So who wrote the Injil?
Allah wrote the Injil.
Allah wrote
to Jesus.
Oh, there it is. Allah wrote the Injil on the preserved tablet, the mother of the book. We want to know, since we don't have the Injil, what is it? That's all we want to know. So, was the Injil written? The answer is
Yes.
yes. Then what is your next question about when we find out that it's written? What's the next question? Who wrote it? Who wrote the Injil? That's the next question. And so they'll say, we don't know, the Quran doesn't say. Ah, so your authors are anonymous. Interesting. So should I reject the Injil? No, it's a revelation. Okay, cool. So because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are anonymous, then that doesn't eliminate it from being the Injil. Looks like we got the same thing. Wow. Now, if I were to, now here's the next question. It's really fun. Okay, because now we got, Jesus wasn't walking around with a physical book. We got that the Christians had a physical book that the Quran calls the Injil. You can find Muhammad in it. We got that they don't know who wrote it. So the next question is, how do you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write it? How do you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are not the authors who wrote the Injil? Oh, well, you don't even know who Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are. Neither do you. How do you know that their names were not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? How do you know it wasn't them? Oh, because what you have is has differences in it. So, how do you know that there weren't differences in the Injil? Oh, it's the gospel. It's not the gospels. You guys ever heard that before?
Yes.
Yeah. It's the gospel, not the gospels. Okay, nice. Okay, so then you ask the question. You're just asking questions. How many accounts does it make that makes up the Injil? Is it just one? Is it two, three? Yeah, it's just one. It says it's singular. How do you know though? Like for example, here's something. The Quran mentions the Torah, right? Mentions the Torah. The Torah, the word is Torah. Singular. It's not plural. And you ask them, how many books are in the Torah? Now, a knowledgeable Muslim will tell you 5. 5 books. Oh, but the word is singular. It's just Torah. So the word being singular doesn't eliminate a plurality of books making up the Torah, or a plurality of books or accounts making up the Injil. So it doesn't eliminate, just because we have 4 accounts of the gospel, it doesn't eliminate Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John being the Injil. So then what do you have next then? Since that doesn't count it, we're back to our question. How do you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not write the Injil? Oh, well, they came after Jesus. They wrote after Jesus. So then, let me test you guys. You guys know where this is going so far. Let me see if you guys are catching on. So if they say that we know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written after Jesus, and that's how we know the Injil is not that, what's the next question?
When was the Quran written?
Not the Quran.
The Hadith.
Not the Hadith.
When was the Injil written?
When was the Injil written? Come on, catch up. When was the Injil written? Look, because they're giving us criteria of how they know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is not the Injil. So everything they say, it better check off. But we're checking off the list right now. We're checking off all green boxes right now. So since if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John can't be the Injil, that was because it's written after Jesus' ascension, then that must mean they know when the Injil was written. The Injil must have been written before. So you ask them, when was the Injil written? Oh, well, we don't know. I know you don't know. I already know that. I know the future. I'm not a prophet too, by the way. But I know you don't know. I just want you to know that I know that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to show these guys. Have the original gospel, the original Injil. What you have is corrupt.
See? Well, what was the Injil?
Oh, it was a revelation given to Jesus by Allah.
Okay, so this revelation that was given to Jesus, was it written down?
We don't know. We just know it was an oral revelation by Allah. Nobody wrote it.
You got your Quran on it?
I haven't memorized.
Okay. There's 7 verse 1 7?
Just what does the verse say?
Okay. It says that in the Torah and in the Gospel, we, the Christians, read about Muhammad, the prophet.
Okay.
It says that we are reading the Torah and the Gospel, and in it we find, present tense, the description of Muhammad.
Yeah, but that's not
We
what you
find
have.
him written.
Yeah, but that's not what you have.
So where do I find him written? If it's not in the Gospel.
You don't have the gospel anymore. Yeah, at that time they could find Muhammad written, but you can't do it now
Okay.
because you don't have it.
So they had it written, so it existed as a book at that time.
Yes, but you don't have that book anymore.
So where did that book come from? Who wrote it? It was written down, right?
Well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write it.
Well, who wrote it?
Not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
I mean, you can't tell me who wrote it, but you know that these 4 individuals definitely didn't write it.
Well, see, the Injil is a revelation from Allah. It's a book given to Jesus. So, yes, and who wrote it is irrelevant.
Well, it's pretty relevant if it might have been Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
It wasn't because you don't even know who Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are.
Well, it doesn't matter, because we're asking you who wrote that Injil.
Well, we don't know who wrote the Injil.
It might have been Matthew.
Well, it could not have been because you don't know who Matthew is. What's his father's name? What's his grandma's social security number?
Well, I'd like to know who wrote down any part of the Quran first before anybody else. I tell you, I don't think I've ever had the same answer twice when I've asked most of the question. But regardless, you're saying that it was written down, we were reading about him in the Torah and the Gospel at the time of Muhammad. It was written down, but you don't know who wrote it, but you know Matthew didn't write it.
Matthew.
How do you know that Matthew didn't write it if you don't know who wrote it?
Because it's the Injil. It's not the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's the Gospel given to Jesus. You believe in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So that's how we know.
So was
that.
Jesus given the book?
Yes, he
A
was.
physical book?
Well, no, he was just given a revelation.
And that revelation was written down.
Yes.
By whom?
Well, we don't know.
But it wasn't Mark. Mark didn't write.
You don't know who Mark is.
Well, actually we do, but that's not relevant. The question is, how do you know that Mark never wrote it?
Well, because what you have is corrupted and changed.
By who? When?
Do it.
There we go.
How do you know that?
Because Jesus was given the gospel. What you have is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Jesus was not given Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, was he?
Well, he lived it, so those are written obviously afterwards. And what we believe is that Injil, just like you said, is from the Word of God. So yourself, you don't know where the Injil comes from, do you?
Well, yeah, it came from Allah. It came from Allah. You're saying that it was written after Jesus, so that shows you that what you have is not Jesus' because Jesus had the gospel in his time. You know? So that's how you know Matthew, Mark, and John, since it came after Jesus, can't possibly be you.
So with yourself, with the Injil, there's no record in the Quran of the Injil, apart from this scripture, was it in 7, was it Surah 7, where it says that it was written down.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it was written down, but you don't have that. Like what the Quran is talking about, you don't have that anymore.
So you reckon, you say it's written down,
Yeah.
where is the evidence of that? Where is the proof? That it's
The
written
Quran
down?
said.
Okay, and so, do you know who wrote it? You said it was God, and
Well, God didn't write it.
so who wrote it then?
You know what? No, I'm coming back. What was your question?
So I said that in the Quran, was it Surah 7, it talks about how the Injil was written down,
Yeah,
and then we said that it was written by God,
yeah.
and so that's what we believe. We believe that people wrote down these scriptures, and
But you don't know who wrote it.
well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
You don't know.
We're told that the work of Godlogic used to write the letters of
Yeah, that's right.
Then that also means that the Muslims were complicit in its corruption if we still don't have it now.
Yeah.
Is that an argument?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you have, and to make it worse, it's that Allah willed for Warka to write the gospel in the Arabic, right, in that time. And so maybe he's writing a corruption by Allah's will. So Allah is willing for a corrupted gospel to be written and spread in Arabia. Beautiful, subhanAllah. Excellent plan. All right, so that's our time, guys. All right, so class is in session. Allah Logic at your service. Let's get this work, man. So, you're a Christian.
Yes, sir.
You believe in Paulianity?
I believe in Jesus Christ.
No, you follow Paul.
What's wrong with Paul? What does Paul teach that's different from Jesus Christ?
But Paul contradicted all the teachings of Jesus.
Does it Muhammad?
No, they taught the same message. They taught in the belief in one God and pure monotheism. That's what they taught. Hold on. Let them do it. Let them work it out. Where do these other Christians come from?
I was going to bring up the law because that's what I've been actually arguing about. But
You're going to bring up the law. Well, Jesus said that he didn't come to change the law, but Paul changed the law. He said the law's done away with.
yeah, he also followed Christ. So we believe in the same laws as Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but he said that the law has changed. When Jesus said that he didn't come to abolish the law, Paul literally says that the law's done away with.
But Muhammad's done away with the law in Quran chapter 3, verse 50.
No, he didn't.
I mean, I can show you.
Show me. Look at him, he don't even know the verses. What's the song? Shoo-ba-doo, da-ba-da-doo-ba-doo. Da-ba-da-da-doo-ba-doo.
I mean, you shouldn't have to service.
Shoo-ba-doo, da-ba-da-doo, da-ba-da-da-doo-da. This Christian's so nervous, man. We're dominating now. We are dominating the Christians here.
Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
Go ahead and read it.
Quran chapter 3, verse 50. And I will confirm the Torah revealed before me and legalize some of what had been forbidden to you. So,
You're reading the Bible, that's corrupted.
nah, that's the Quran.
Oh, okay. What are you guys laughing at? Okay, so, all right, so what? What's your point?
That Muhammad or Allah contradicts the Bible. And it goes away with the law.
Well, he's a prophet, though.
So don't you consider Jesus a prophet?
Yeah, so he could change the law.
So any prophet that comes after, wait. You know what I mean? So if you're saying that he's changed the law, then you don't believe in Musa. Because Musa to Moses came with the law and the Ten Commandments, and Jesus has to fulfill the law. So if you're saying that anybody that comes and changes the law is a false prophet, then that would make Muhammad a false prophet because he goes against all the Ten Commandments.
That's another good point. Another good point to bring, if you guys want to have fun with it, is that, well, Muhammad changed some of the laws. You know, he changed some of the, they say, you know, Jesus didn't eat pork and all that kind of stuff, right? But according to the law, is it legal to eat camel? No. But you literally have a verse in the Quran, don't you laugh at that, sis? You literally have a verse in the Quran that allows you to eat camel. So you said, so whoever changed the law is a false prophet. Not only can you say, okay, well, you're saying that Jesus changed the law, but Muhammad came and changed the law. He taught that camel's legal now. That's tough. And I don't imagine that tastes good. So that should be a sin already. But yeah, that's a good point, bro. Yeah, you're done. Good job. Should we leave the mic here? Because we'll bring up, we'll bring up more people at the Q&A. All right. Who else thinks that they can do this? No.
Go on. Go let him.
You're scared.
Come on, Bob. I'm going to be the cookie later. Come here. Come on, young Bob.
MashaAllah, brothers and sisters.
All right. So you follow Paulianity like the other brother, huh?
Well, I follow what the apostles do.
You follow the apostles?
Of course.
Well, Paul wasn't the original disciple.
Of course, but course, we understand that Paul actually taught what the apostles taught.
Paul taught what the apostles taught?
Of course.
That's not true. He literally, do you see the slide?
Yeah?
It says Paul contradicted the apostles.
Okay, but
Can he not read?
yes, I can, I'm like your prophet.
It was a miracle. Do y'all know what a miracle is? Of course he couldn't read or write. That's the miracle. That's the point.
So what are the two propositions that contradict? What is the thing that Paul taught that the apostles didn't?
What are the things that Paul taught that the apostles did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Paul taught that Paul taught, right? Are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay. Paul taught that you had to do away with circumcision.
Yeah.
Right? But the apostle James and them, they taught that circumcision was still good.
Yeah. So the idea of, especially the Nazarite vow, well, firstly, you hold to the same position as a Muslim, that the Sharia will change according to the Prophet, right? And that is what is found within Quran chapter 3, verse 50. So we understand that the circumcision of the flesh is covenantal, whilst the circumcision of the heart is the thing that stays continual throughout the Mosaic and the new covenant of Christ.
First of all, I don't like how you're looking at me. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I don't like your tone.
Yeah.
Okay? Number three, you know, you sound biblically astute. But all I heard was nonsense. Because you can say all this covenantal stuff, but the Quran says that you guys forgot a portion of your covenant and abandoned what Allah has revealed to you. Otherwise, you would recognize Muhammad as the true prophet.
Yeah, but that's just an assumption, right?
It's because you follow Paul.
The principle there is that the Sharia changes. That's just the understanding of the new and old covenant.
The Sharia changes.
Yeah.
The Sharia changes?
Yeah.
But Jesus said the Sharia won't change. He said the law won't change.
It's fulfilled.
So if Paul says that it's changed, then he's going against what the apostles taught in Jesus.
Well, no. So to fulfill something just means it's no longer applicable to you, right? It's like the way that a video game is fulfilled, therefore the challenge is no longer there. So they no longer have to apply themselves to the old covenant because it's fulfilled. It's just semantically pointing out the same thing.
But okay, so if Jesus says he doesn't come to abolish it, that means that it's still intact, right?
Well, it says, "For I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, and not one drop until it should pass away until heaven and earth."
Exactly, heaven and earth is still.
But there is an interesting reading of the text. So in Isaiah, the temple is referred to as heaven on earth. Heaven and earth did pass away at the temple burning within 70 AD. This is why.
The Bible don't say that.
Yes, it does.
Show me.
Oh. Sorry, I forgot the verse in Isaiah. But
show me where it says in the New Testament that heaven and earth has actually passed away.
Okay, is the church heaven and earth?
No.
You don't believe that?
No, the masjid is.
Okay. So prior to the Islamic movement, the photo Christians in their temple, that would be heaven and earth, right?
This is too complicated, young Bob.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Heaven
Keep
and
it
earth.
simple.
Okay, heaven and earth is just God's kingdom. You believe God's kingdom is the masjid?
It's Islamic.
So yeah, great. So prior to that, let's just concede to some like photo-Christian movement of Muslims. That would be their temple, and the Jews, their temple.
Pause for a second.
Yes.
Do you guys notice what we're talking about?
No.
No idea.
No. Sorry.
Are we talking about Paul anymore? So we have successfully followed the rabbit trail and we've done the Muslim shuffle. Now we're off of Paul and now he's explaining some other things that I really don't care about. Well, Bob, don't let the Muslim shuffle go. Keep it hyper-focused.
Go on.
Okay. Talk about Paul here.
Yeah.
Right? Paul is a false messenger.
Okay.
Because he taught that the law is gone. And Jesus said it's not abolished.
Yes, it is fulfilled.
So how is he still a good prophet or a messenger? How can you follow him? If Jesus is teaching that he didn't come to change it, but Paul says, well, now Jesus is gone.
Because semantically it's the same thing for something to be changed and something to be fulfilled.
It's the same thing for something to be changed and fulfilled.
What is the definition of fulfilled?
Finish.
Okay, so it's no longer applicable to you?
I guess not.
Okay, so if it's no longer applicable to you, when he says it's changed, it's just to say that he's moved from one state to another. That's why he no longer believes in the circumcision of the flesh. So you just said that for something to be fulfilled, it's no longer applicable to you. He's saying the law has changed in context and saying that the circumcision of the flesh is no longer applicable to you. You've just said the same thing, and I've asked you 2 questions. Congratulations.
I mean, that's cute. Nice teaching on the law and stuff, but I'm lost.
You just gave me a definition that applies in his text.
So
now you're just not understanding what I'm saying.
well, what I'm doing here is that even what you're saying, young God, I'm seeing that you're trying to make an argument for the law, which now we're talking about the law, and Muhammad is safe. I have young Bob defending the law and defending Paul and giving me all these explanations without challenging Muhammad, without challenging me. And this is the whole point of this tactic. It's because, number one, by the way, guys, he can cook a Muslim just like this. Like, he's cooking me right now. Right? I'm just avoiding it. However, you want to be as simple and succinct as possible with these people. And straightforward. You want to attack Muhammad. Attack Muhammad.
Okay? So is the same thing not true about Muhammad?
What?
That he changes the law according to you?
Of course not. What do you mean? They all talk the same message. They believe in one God. Right? They don't eat pork. Right?
You eat camel?
Huh?
You eat camel?
Huh?
You eat camel?
What?
You eat camel?
I mean, I personally don't.
Can you eat camel?
Can I? I mean, I can.
Okay, and does the Mosaic law teach that?
No.
Okay, so then Muhammad's changed the law.
There we go.
I'm happy to agree.
Yes. There it is. Thank you, Bob. I'm actually glad he came up because that was a good example. It's a good example of, because he's very knowledgeable, as you guys can see. He's knowledgeable. He's knowledgeable, but does a lot of explaining. You do a lot of explaining. And so it can get lost in the sauce, right? You can over-explain or, give too much information with Muhammad going unchallenged. Really, notice how quick it was, how quick I ran. That was me giving you a visible, theatric presentation of what happens up here. Is that as soon as he turned it against me, I had nothing. With a simple, hold on. Muhammad changed the law, didn't he? I have nothing to say. But I can let you go on and argue all about the law and explain all the covenants and circumcision of the heart and all that. Go. Be my guest. Muhammad is safe. You can spend all your time, and now I gotta go pray. Now I gotta do my future prayer. Before you can attack Muhammad. So get straight to it. Yes, sir. Jesse, you're a Christian? I am. What's my name? Abdullah Latif. It means servant of gentleness. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So, Jesse, I couldn't for the life of me understand how some of you guys can follow someone who obviously never met Jesus and really was at odds with the apostles. How can you take someone like Paul, for example, who used to persecute the Christians? How can you take him as reliable? Someone who was at odds and disagreed with the apostles of Jesus.
Okay. What exactly did the apostles teach?
I'm sorry?
What did the apostles teach?
I mean, you're the Christian. You don't know what the apostles taught?
I know what the apostles teach, but you're making a claim.
What claim did I make?
That Paul contradicts the apostles. You have to know what the apostles taught.
Well, okay.
So what did the apostles teach about Jesus?
Okay, fair enough. It's all right now. It's all right. Already started off with the reverse Uno card. But
On the spirit within, not the outer shell. Heaven or hell. Remember Lucifer fell. My will from the spiritual, not the material.